Minister of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development, Professor Ruwan Chaminda Ramasinghe, Deputy Minister of Tourism, Mr. Raktim Das, CEO, Zee Media Corporation Limited, distinguished guests, leaders of the industry, friends from the media, and all those who have gathered here today in this beautiful city of Colombo. Ayubowan, Namaskar, Vanakkam. 3 greetings, 3 languages, 3 traditions, and yet at their heart, they and a wish for long life and well-being. That, in a small way, captures the essence of what I want to speak about today, the civilizational bond that binds India and Sri Lanka is rooted in languages, foods, values, and traditions and aspirations. The relationship between India and Sri Lanka did not begin with a treaty, a trade agreement, or a diplomatic communique. It began long before any of those existed. It was a natural two-way current between 2 proximate geographies, between 2 people who coexisted and cross-influenced each other to build a rich historical tradition that we both share in many respects and are rightfully proud of it today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm grateful to Zee Media and WION for this opportunity to speak at this summit. And I must say, a global innovation and leadership summit in Colombo with this wonderful gathering of business leaders, political thinkers, and media voices from both our countries is exactly the kind of forum our relationship deserves. Let us have more of these, please. As the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, I have the honor and the challenging task of providing a perspective on a relationship that is both ancient and modern, where there is an infinite past and an everlasting future. This is not simply a bilateral relationship. It is a civilizational bond. We are both inheritors of a shared past. As Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi referred to during his April 2025 visit to Sri Lanka, we are civilizational twins. The Ramayana is not just an Indian epic. It lives in Sri Lanka too, in temples, in stories, in the faith of millions of Indians and Sri Lankans. The Pali Canon, the bedrock of Theravada Buddhism, traveled from India to this island and found one of its most faithful home here. The ancient city of Anuradhapura was built with vision and craft that drew from traditions across the region. Examples of this shared past abound between India and Sri Lanka. These are not coincidences of geography. These are signatures of a shared civilization. And shared civilization produce shared values and instincts. There is certain ease with each other that this brings. This is very hard to manufacture or quantify. It is this depth that provides stability and anchorage to our relationship. Friends, let us now turn to the world we find ourselves in today, because the context matters. We are living through an extraordinary period of global turbulence. Supply chains, markets, and everything else available as a leverage are being weaponized as never before. Geopolitical competition is reshaping trade, alliances, and partnerships. Trust in global order is eroding. Utility of global institutions are in question. Wars and conflicts are proliferating. Even if these are regional, nobody seems immune from its impact. Economic uncertainty, in some form or another, has become almost a permanent condition, and we are all struggling in different degrees to adapt as nations. In these circumstances, relationships built on shallow, transactional foundations are the first to crack. They are the ones where a change in government, a shift in commodity prices, or a geopolitical tremor is enough to undo years of effort. Civilizational bonds are different. They are not dependent on who happens to be in office in any given year. They are not contingent on a favorable deal or a transaction. They are sustained by something deeper and more durable, a shared sense of who we are and where we come from and what we seek to build for ourselves. When the world is uncertain, you turn to those you trust. And trust, real trust, is built over centuries, not decades. India and Sri Lanka have this in plenty. But we must not take it for granted. In fact, we should nurture it, build on it, and use it to our mutual advantage. India, under Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, has pursued a vision of neighborhood first and Mahasagar as a central tenet of our approach towards Sri Lanka. A partnership rooted in shared aspirations for growth and prosperity, not one based on fear, coercion, or primacy of one over the other. At the cornerstone of this vision lies our economic partnership, which is central to our shared aspirations. Much of it, in my view, is a story that is still being written. India today is Sri Lanka's largest trading partner. India is the top source of tourists visiting Sri Lanka, a fact that endures despite challenges of a natural calamity like Ditwa or a conflict in West Asia. India is also among the largest sources of foreign direct investment into this country. Last year, Indian investments in Sri Lanka, including those directed from third countries, exceeded 50% of the total FDI received in Sri Lanka. Indian companies have invested in telecommunications, energy, digitization, financial services, transport, and infrastructure, to name a few. The India-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement has been in place since 2000. That is 25 years. It was the first FTA for both of us, and it is widely acknowledged that the FTA has delivered on its promise of benefiting Sri Lanka more than India. More than 65% of Sri Lankan exports use FTA benefits, whereas only 5% of Indian exports use FTA benefits. For more than a decade, Sri Lanka has enjoyed a trade surplus with India if we just calculate only the FTA-enabled trade. The trajectory of Sri Lankan exports to India is also growing steadily. India is now the second largest export market for Sri Lanka, demonstrating how an FTA can enable an economy of 22 million people to effectively leverage an economy of 1.4 billion people. And yet, by common acknowledgement from both sides, there is much more to be done. Most of all, an upgrade to our FTA into a modern framework that delivers the full potential of our bilateral economic partnership. We have spent too long talking about it, sometimes renaming it, but not actually moving with purpose and required political will to forge a new framework. I say this not to assign blame, but to note that every year of delay is a year of lost opportunity. Think of it, in the last 6 years, India has signed 9 FTAs covering trade with 38 countries. Sri Lanka's recovery from the 2022 economic crisis has been remarkable. I say this with genuine admiration. The resilience of this country, the determination of its people has been extraordinary to witness. India was proud to stand with Sri Lanka through that period with credit lines, with fuel, food, medicine and fertilizers, with the kind of unconditional support that neighbors provide in a crisis. We have always stood by Sri Lanka in times of crisis, more recently during Ditwa and the current West Asia conflict leading to energy crunch. But the best thing India can do for Sri Lanka would be to help build resilience that does not require periodic assistance to be rendered in emergencies. This can be done if we work jointly to build a partnership for prosperity. This entails trade, investments, jobs, value chains, and much more. This is the ambition of our partnership and a vision of our leaders, and I believe it is within reach. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one theme that I want to leave you with today, it is that India and Sri Lanka must be bold, must be brave, and must seize the moment. And it is not only in matters of trade, but a much larger agenda of connectivity. Let me be direct. The distance between Colombo and Chennai by sea is roughly 300 kilometers. But the distance between Rameshwaram and Talaimanar, the closest points of our two countries, is about 30 kilometers. 30 kilometers only. And yet there is no direct road, no railway, no ferry service that runs on scale. No energy grid connection, no pipeline. It is frankly an anomaly. It is as if two neighboring rooms are connected only through a corridor outside, even when there is a door that can be built between the two rooms, right in the shared walls of the two rooms. We need to open the door. Land connectivity via a bridge or tunnel across the Port Strait has been discussed for decades. There are enough examples of such corridors across the world. The engineering is well understood, the economics are compelling, the benefits wherever such bridges have been built are unmistakable, but we continue to waver. But let me say clearly, the time for wavering is over. A fixed link between India and Sri Lanka would transform the economic geography of this entire region. It would make Sri Lanka a hub it aspires to become in a way that no port expansion or airport upgrade can achieve on its own. Energy connectivity is equally transformative. India has made massive strides in renewable energy across solar, wind, nuclear, and green hydrogen. Sri Lanka has its own targets. A submarine electricity interconnection between the two countries would give Sri Lanka access to affordable and clean power. It will also create a market for Sri Lanka's energy exports and help realize its vast potential. In a power-hungry age of data centers, India's demand for renewable energy will only increase, and Sri Lanka needs to fully understand that opportunity to forge ahead. Beyond electricity, serious conversations must take place about long-term energy supply arrangements, including the petroleum pipeline and the development of tank farms in a meaningful, sustainable way. It can provide Sri Lanka with price stability and energy security, something that we know today, after the West Asia crisis, is at premium. These are not fantasies. These are projects that have been studied, scoped, and in some cases are ready for decision. India already has implemented similar projects with its other neighbors, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, who are benefiting not just by exporting their surplus power to Indian markets, but also by enjoying a level of energy security which would not have been possible otherwise in the current difficult global situation. And then, of course, there is digital connectivity, perhaps the most exciting frontier of all. India is rightfully a global leader in this area today, but UPI, Aadhaar, Gati Shakti, the health stack, the agriculture stack, AI advancements, and startups need not be just Indian achievements. They are platforms that can be adapted, shared, and built upon. These can provide a rapid pathway for Sri Lanka's to realize its own aspirations for a digital transformation. The opportunity to collaborate, to share platforms, to build joint capabilities, to create a seamless digital corridor between our two economies is right in front of us. What we need is an institutional arrangement and focus to pursue it with purpose and energy. Friends, India's engagement with Sri Lanka goes beyond. Most of all, it is about our people, about communities, about the kind of development that changes lives on the ground.